Wait, isn't everybody at war over atheism?
Atheism? No. We've learned to get rid of all the isms in our time. Yes, long ago we realized isms are great for those who are rational, but in the hands of irrational people, isms always lead to violence.
Hello. It's been a long time, at least it seems like that for me. I know Daniel just got around to putting up the more recent episodes, but I haven't recorded. I think I recorded 2 in one night because I didn't really like the first one. Again, I think I've mentioned I'll probably throw that at some point, but it was a little bit too whiny at the point whenever I first recorded it and started listening to a little bit. That was, I think, that was before his wedding, so I left for that at the beginning of the month. It's now October. It's been October. It's now October 22nd, so we're several weeks into October. Daniel's wedding was the beginning of the month. I haven't recorded anything since then, so this is a little bit strange getting back into it. I've been feeling really lazy. I don't know if it was... I thought I was in like a bad spot before as far as... I mean, I don't feel any more negative, and I haven't really felt necessarily more negative over the past couple weeks, but I definitely had no motivation at all to do any of this stuff. I was just shitty at writing, shitty at doing podcasts, because I didn't do it at all. The writing was just slow. I tried switching up the way that I was doing it, like right before I left, because I bought like a little small travel laptop off of Amazon, like a refurbished one that I could just take on the plane, that I could have on the plane. And so for a couple weeks before I left, I tried to just start writing stuff out on paper, see if that helped me do anything. And it was kind of an interesting experiment just because it did kind of change how I wrote stuff. Looking at it, even after I typed it up, there's just a kind of a different way that I moved through things, and just, I mean, different kind of themes for most of the stuff. They were a little bit stranger than whenever I normally type them out. Whenever I'm typing stuff out, I think I probably emulate people a little bit more. I take things I've read and I might use that speech, versus when I'm just writing on paper, because I can kind of think at the same, like, as I'm writing it out. And then also on paper, you can kind of just scratch stuff out real quick. You don't have to click the cursor around, backspace there, remove this word. You just kind of write it out, go back over it, maybe cross the whole thing out, do it again. So there's definitely more of like a style to that. I don't know if it's good, but in my experience this time, all it really did was completely fuck up any kind of it fucked up any kind of a routine that I had for doing that. And same thing with just not doing the pod. I mean, that's not that great of a comparison, because at least I was still doing something, but my output dropped a lot. Like, I wasn't writing. I think I've normally, or in the past, especially if I'm not super busy with work, I try to do like 1,000 words a day, but it went down to like maybe 300 on paper, just because it takes longer. Just writing out a word takes almost double the time if you're doing it with pen versus just being able to type it out. At least normally with me, if I don't have to stumble over a passage, if I can kind of just go with what's in my head, I can definitely type faster. So I think it was overall probably a good idea to try that. I probably shouldn't have done that right before then. I had several flights, which I would say if you're normally traveling like that, it's probably not as big of a deal. But me going on a plane, moving around like that, it seems to hit me a little bit worse. I get real tired. I get real irritable, especially if things don't go completely how I expect them to. I don't like being kind of at the mercy of these people who run the airports. And it's not even the airports. It's mostly... No, it is the airports, because the airports with their bag stuff, and it's like you pay for a carry-on bag, and then like, yep, no, there's no more room, we have to stow this. So that's kind of annoying, but mostly I just get real... Daniel's talked in the past on the You, Me, and BTC show that we do, and if you're listening to this, you probably listened to that before. That's mostly how people would hear about this podcast, which... because I haven't really introduced this yet. This is Tim's 2 cents, back again after a couple week hiatus. I'm sure I was not missed at all. I'm sure everybody just started. I lost a few listeners I had. They went over to Zach because he did like a 7-day podcast a day thing talking about lightning. Zach's another guy on our normal show. Again, if I probably don't need to tell you any of that. If for some reason you've come to this out of the blue though, Zach Vole, he does our You Mean BTC live show every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can get to that by going to ymb.tc/live. That'll bring you up to the latest episode, and if there's a live one, it will take you to that one. But Zach does his show called The Coin Pod. Check him out, definitely. But he does interviews on that. This podcast is mostly me just ranting, which is mostly me just complaining. But Zach actually interviews people, talks to people who are developing things, who are involved with developing things, or people who actually know about things. I don't know if that made any sense, but whatever. But yeah, I probably lost most of my listenership, if I had any, to Zach during that time, because they were like, okay, he's going to put out 7 episodes a week versus Tim's maybe 1. So I understand that, but if you're listening to this, I also have to thank you as well. I've been putting off doing this because, I don't know, like I said, I don't know, I guess we would call it like a rut, like going on the trip. Side note here, I'm not entirely sure how this episode's going, just because I'm trying to jump around to a few different things and kind of twist them together, because I don't just want to spend 15 minutes bitching about Daniel's wedding and the trip to get there and then go back to how I'm like, well, you should really focus on keeping momentum with things, but we'll see how it works. I don't know. All of this kind of just reinforce what I've been trying to tell anybody listening, then also trying to tell myself, that momentum and kind of the way you can, the power you can kind of gain and build through momentum. And I don't mean that like literally running downhill, or what I mean on a regular, getting a good schedule, keeping a routine where, say, you clean something every single day, or like I was saying, I do 1,000 words a day, I do editing, I do whatever. It's exercise routines are like this. Everything gets easier as you continue to do it. Not necessarily easier, but like the task doesn't get easier, but the mental energy that it requires to force yourself to do it, I think, does go down. It becomes less intensive to force yourself to go right if you've been doing it regularly. It's less intensive to go to the gym, mentally intensive to go to the gym, to drag yourself to the gym if you've been consistently doing it. Same thing with doing podcasts, doing really anything. And I've beaten that to death, but at the same time, it is nice to actually see how much I fail whenever I do take that momentum away and direct it towards nothing. I complain a lot about stuff that can take your attention away from stuff, and I fell into most of that. I don't even watch Netflix or on demand. I just go on there and scroll through things, because I'm like, yep, no, all right, in about 15 minutes, I just want to look at this for a while, or I'll do something. I just want to look at this I just need to distract myself. I just need to, I need to digest my food. I can't do anything while I'm eating, so I need to do this. But it really does mess stuff up. If you can get momentum going, fight everything you can that tries to stop that. As long as the momentum's going in a positive direction. There's also all kinds of stuff that can go in the wrong direction. You get into the wrong habits. That's its own kind of momentum. If every single day you come back and instead of writing, instead of going to the gym, you go, I'm going to watch this episode or this half of a movie, then in a little bit it's a lot easier to just watch 3 episodes or a full movie or 2 movies, because, well, I watched one yesterday, just another one won't hurt, or it's only an hour and a half. I have 6 hours before I should probably be going to bed. That's fine. And then you kind of just build onto that. Whichever way that you're pushing yourself, I think we have a tendency to build on that. It's harder to do that when it's in a positive way. It's harder to go from, say, going to the gym 3 days a week till 5 versus going to the gym 3 days a week to 1 day a week. It's a lot simpler just to say, fuck those other 2 days, I'll go once a week. But again, it's, I can't really say enough, and I don't want to say things like, oh, it's so important, but it's so evident to me now that is literally everything. If you're trying to do something, then getting on the right track or whatever you want to call it, and continuing along that. And even if at the beginning it's just struggling, you're going so slowly, you're not seeing any results of the gym, you're barely getting a page of on a laptop done every day, you're barely doing any business with something you're trying to start. But as long as you can keep going, no, fuck, just put your head down, crawl forward, it eventually will go a little bit faster, and it will, all the time that you've spent forcing yourself to do it then kind of builds up the strength, the mental strength to continue doing that whenever it is hard, and whenever you do go, yeah, I really don't want to sit here and do this. I want to go out and get drunk with my friends, if you have any of those. Because I imagine you're listening to this, you're probably like me, you don't hang out with that many people. But the momentum not only is a, like, moment by moment thing. That's not, it's not a, it's a day by day. Even when you're not doing that task, if you can keep yourself in a schedule, if you can keep yourself in a routine to continue doing that, you're so far ahead of what you're trying to accomplish. Because it's not going to be I have an inspiration. That's what I always fall into whenever I stop doing something, is I start going, well, I don't want to just do this out of necessity. I don't want to just do this as a routine. I want to do this when I feel inspired and I feel like I'm really getting work done. That might work the first time because you still have all of the discipline of just, well, this isn't the perfect moment. But I'll continue going because I need to get something done. That might work the first couple of times, but by the fourth day of doing that, you start to go, well, that's not the best idea. I'll let that go. I need to think of better ideas. And then you kind of just bounce, or I don't want to say I will then just have all these dumb ideas in my head that I'm like, oh, that's great. And then as soon as I try to do them, I'm like, this isn't exactly how I imagined it. I don't want to do this anymore. This is boring. I don't want to write through this scene. I don't want to do this exercise. I don't want to do this podcast. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go out and talk to people, be social. It works with that too. It's not just about doing some solitary thing like the gym or writing. It's also just being social. If you're somebody who doesn't naturally do that, you have to practice. And I also realized that because this past week I went and I was in a Halloween party, and I realized I hadn't really, the last thing I'd done like socially was the wedding, and I kind of knew those people and they were from a different kind of part of my life. You know how you have different groups of people in your life where it's like, oh, well, you can talk about getting drunk around these people, or you can swear around these people, or you can talk about smoking weed around these people, blah, blah, or just what they're interested in. The wedding was a lot of people that I knew from being a kid, a lot of church people. Daniel's wedding was the most singularly white thing I've ever been involved in. It was in, I don't remember if I've said where it was, but I won't say where it was. It was a very white state. Everybody there was beautiful. Everybody there was this like gorgeous Midwestern kind of like dirty blonde, very little makeup on the girls. The guys are all like 6 foot tall and they make me look like a midget. So that was fun, but all the girls kind of make you just want to oh, you're so sweet and nice. And I'm sure that it's waitresses and it's other people trying to get better tips, but it's a change from Pittsburgh where I live. But I mean, while being the whitest thing I've ever been to, it's also been the nicest wedding I was at. Definitely the one with the highest bill at the end of it. So anytime Daniel wants to talk about how he understands income inequality, all politely in the YouTube comments tell him to fuck off. But it was interesting. It's a different world that I haven't really been a part of for a while. I tend to slum it in my regular life just because partly I'm from garbage and partly I'm just cheap. The concept of spending that much money on a single day just that doesn't involve several illegal things blows my mind. I would never be able to make that as like a yes, this is worth it in my mind. I would never be able. I never even got a bill. I'd never asked him. I feel like that's probably a little bit beyond the line to ask how much the wedding was, but the idea of spending that on a single day is so far beyond what I even consider in my daily life. I'm over here like, I could buy a cup of coffee, but I could always just make one. That'd definitely be cheaper. So that was a little bit weird. Also, I've never been to Chicago. If we have any listeners from Chicago, your city, literally in the hour and a half to 2.5 hours, I think I was there for like 2.5 hours. Half hour of that in the Chicago airport was spent in the Starbucks line because it's the slowest thing I've ever been a part of. It was a half hour spent standing there, and then about a split second of that was spent with a person behind me just sneezing on me, just a savage, just spewing, and nobody said anything. It was just quiet. I felt this mist on my back of my head. There was no apology. There was nothing. It was just some dude with, I don't know, just picture like what you think of a white dude at the Starbucks with his little stupid MacBook under his arm, sneezing on people, which I think got me sick. If you've listened to the You Mean BTC episodes, my voice was all kind of fucked up for the past couple weeks. That didn't help getting sneezed on. So that happened while I was at the airport, and then within like 5 minutes of me entering the terminal, I saw two men on the verge of a fist fight over I don't know what. I kind of just stood there and watched to see what would happen. They never actually fought each other, but there were words thrown back and forth. And hey, fuck you, I'm gonna go call security. Fuck you, I'm gonna go call security. So yeah, good representation of your city there, guys. But besides that, the traveling wasn't bad. Actually, on the way to the wedding, I got a full row of seating to myself, which was nice. I could just lay out my notebooks, take my laptop out, and get a little bit of stuff done on the plane ride. And I mean, that all went all fine. Coming back, going there the morning of in Pittsburgh before I was flying, I had Daniel always tells his stories about the TSA taking his things and making him have panic attacks. I complied with all their regulations and put my liquids into a separate bucket, whatever the fuck they have, their little utensil carriers from the local bar that they stole, like they did everything else. And I put a contact solution. I have the hydrogen peroxide stuff shit. So they put a red cap on it. So don't spray this in your eye, you idiot, or it will burn you. So I listened to all their requirements, put the liquids in the different thing. And then as it went through the x-ray, everything was fine. I went to take it, and he looked real young to be in TSA. He looked like 22 or so. And so he wasn't super like, excuse me, sir, what are you doing with this? He was just like, yeah, man, we can't give this back to you because this contact solution bottle, we can't give this back to you because if we scan it, if we use the scanner on it, it's going to trip off because of the red cap, which that might be a thing. I don't know. And so I was like, okay, well then, okay. And he's like, well, we could also swab it for explosives, I'm assuming. And then he's like, but, I'm like, okay. And he's like, and then we'd have to pat you down. I think he said again, and I'm thinking I haven't been patted down. I walked through the x-ray thing. I put my hands up like a prisoner and had the thing whirl around. They went, step forward, sir, get the fuck out of our airport. But I think he said something about getting patted down again. I was like, okay, I'm already through security. I have another hour and a half to wait. And then I was like, well, wait, how long is that going to take to do that? He's like, I don't know, 15 minutes. And then I was like, I just don't care enough. I'll buy another bottle whenever I land. And I just had them throw it out. But I didn't have any other issues from TSA or the airport, I made some dumb decisions, seeing as how when I was the morning I was coming back, I got to the airport, got through security again, had like an hour and a half to kill, went and got breakfast at, I think it was a Chipotle or something similar to that, and decided to eat a chorizo sausage and egg burrito, which then literally 4 hours later, I still reeked of just smoked eggs and all this stuff. It was not good. I was just sweating. I'd taken a shower that morning, but then I had like an hour-long drive or 40-minute long drive to the airport, but then there was traffic, so it was more like an hour. I was just getting angry. I thought I was going to get stuck in a security line, but it wasn't even bad, so I was all worked up and everything, and I was just sweating. I was probably disgusting to every single person around me. I know I was repulsive I was sitting next to this girl on the flight, the first flight back. I had two. Again, like I said before, these people in this place, all attractive blonde girls, and she wanted nothing to do with talking to me, kept like ruffling her nose as she kind of went through her paperwork, and I just felt depressed the whole time, just like the garbage I am. So that was a nice little wake-up call to not I don't need to lean into being a piece of trash by eating eggs and sausage burritos at whatever 9 in the morning that I did, and then drinking coffee, and then just kind of piling on top of all that. I should probably focus a little bit more on trying to actually be clean. I don't need to sell being a loser to anybody. I do that very well naturally. But yeah, I mean, the travel and everything went fine. I didn't even have that much of an issue doing stuff. I even wrote a little bit at my Airbnb the day before the wedding. It was then coming back and being like, oh, my own bed, and I can just sit around. I don't have to worry about getting to some dumb wedding thing or some cruise beforehand on time, and I kind of just got lazy. I started, I'll write tomorrow. I won't worry about it today. I traveled all day. We definitely didn't help having that again. It wasn't even an option in where I was, but I cut back significantly before I left. And then when I came back, I was like, well, I'm tired and I don't feel like getting drunk anymore. Let's get high. And that more than anything really kills any kind of a focus I can have on writing anything. It kills most of the focus on anything I do creative. I'm not one of these, I don't get the people who make music while they're high. I could even understand like heroin writing better than weed. I can completely understand Jimi Hendrix just getting stoned out on black tar and then just write, like, cause weed's just so, it's too spacey. It's too spacey to where unless you're doing something, I could probably write like a page worth of something. But then by the time that like 500 word mark comes up, I'm just like, I don't care about this. I want to listen to different kind of music. I want to go do whatever. I'm too all over the place with it. So again, I've cut back on that. I seem like I'm getting a little bit back into my rhythm. The past couple of days, I've actually been consistently writing on the laptop again. I am recording a podcast, so I guess that's there as well. I'm kind of just now fully recovering. My nose is no longer consistently clogged, which hasn't been great for my attitude on life most of the time. But a lot of it was just me not wanting to do the things that I knew I had to do if I because none of the writing, it's not like somebody's giving me an assignment. And I think that is partly my fault. I do need to get involved with some kind of a group with that, like a workshop or something. But I don't have like an assignment, so I can just be like, oh, well, I'll do it later. Like that works out. But I never used to do that in high school. And this partly my parents, partly just because I was a weird kid where it was like, as soon as I got home, I just did it because I didn't want to have to worry about it later. I need to do that as well with stuff like writing, with stuff like doing the podcast, because if I let it go, then I just go, well, okay, I'll just make it shorter, or I'll do a little bit less, or I will, whatever. I'll skimp out on it because I'm not making myself do it. So then whenever I do eventually get around to do it in some kind of lazy, distracted way, I don't put any kind of seriousness into it. And it ruins a lot of, not ruins, but it isn't as, it isn't as, what's the word? It's not as satisfying whenever you look at it afterwards. It doesn't feel as good after you finish. Like if you say, again, I'll go back to like a gym thing. If you kind of go, well, I've got a full day off, you kind of fuck around for a little bit, you go to the gym at like 2 p.m. You might feel okay, you might have a decent workout, it might be fine, but you're probably going to feel better if you go, nope, I woke up at 8, I'm going to go at 8:30, and then you force yourself to do that. You use discipline, and you use whatever momentum that you've been building to kind of reinforce that discipline, and then you feel good after you've done it. You feel like you've accomplished something. You feel like, I really didn't want to do this, but now it's over with, and it doesn't have to be done again till tomorrow. That's how, that might not be the healthiest way to look at things, I guess, if you're just completely phoning it in. That's more a problem if it's something with creatively. The gym, as long as you're doing work, as long as you're doing concrete exercises, you have a routine set up, you should be fine, even if you have to drag yourself there. But it's also interesting that once you do drag yourself there, and this goes with writing as well, once you kind of start to do it, it is not that bad. It's not as miserable as you kind of built it up in your head. And I've done this hundreds of times before. I know it's not going to be that terrible, but my motivation to do it is gone because I have no, like, motivation is just fleeting. Motivation is just some little feeling in your head that you go, I really want to do this right now. This is really exciting. That's cool. That's great. But motivation doesn't, that's nothing. That's the same thing as feeling anxiety or feeling, infatuated. It's a emotional response to an idea that quickly goes away. Normally motivation doesn't last for that long, but discipline and like getting control of yourself and not letting yourself slack off, not letting yourself, like, being your own boss, not in the sense of, I'm going to run a business. This works like that too, but being your own boss in the sense that you don't let yourself just sit down and scroll through Reddit for an hour and a half, which I do. And I will do if I don't stop myself. And you don't just go, oh, yep, I'm just going to watch Netflix for the next 6 hours because I really don't want to write, or I really don't want to go to the gym. And it's interesting. It's kind of strange that it's not strange. It's not even that interesting. It's pretty normal. It makes a lot of sense because I'm not saying this because I don't talk about discipline because I'm like, yep, nope, I thought of this all by myself. Like, you hear everybody say that. You hear everybody talk about how you just need to practice and you need to fail at something over and over and over again. You just need to put in the hours and you will get better at something, even if it's small, even if it's incrementally. So it's just nice to see this be so kind of drastically, so fully and so drastically, and I'm trying to think of a better word, but so it's made so clear to me that is 90% of doing anything is just kind of getting a control of yourself, of doing anything that is different, doing anything that's not awe-inspiring, not anything like that, but doing anything that you want to get better at than the average person. Because that's what, when we practice at something, we don't practice at it to get it to, well, I'm passable. I'm basically average at that. If you want to get better than average at something, that you have to put in the work, you have to put in a discipline for something that other people aren't going to do. I've talked enough about this at this point. I'm starting to feel the kind of douche the douchiness a little bit in what I'm saying. So I'll try to clear this out, just finish up this episode real quick. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes because I did that just to, again, waste a little bit more time before I actually recorded this episode. But I think I've gone through most of that. I don't know. I sometimes do advice on this, I sometimes don't. Advice: don't go to your friends' weddings. Tell them to fuck off. It'll break up your concentration. No, actual advice: if you do have to go someplace, try not to just switch up. Whatever you're doing, again, if it's a business, if it's writing, if it's going to the gym, don't switch up the thing right before you have another event that's going to kind of break up your schedule, because that's whenever you need the full momentum. That's whenever you need all the momentum, so that if you take 2 or 3 days off, you can jump right back into it a little bit more easily than if you say you're doing this, and then like a couple weeks before this whatever new thing, you start trying something a little bit different. You don't build up enough of a work ethic. You don't build up enough discipline in that by that time. At least I don't. Maybe, but you need to give yourself enough time to actually build up the discipline for that. And that's not a broad general discipline. That's a discipline. Like, think of it as somebody studying a discipline. You need discipline in each different things. You also need the broad discipline, but you need to look at it as, I have this discipline for weightlifting, I have this discipline for running, I have this discipline for writing, I have this discipline for I have this discipline for talking to people, whatever it is. Get your discipline down, and it's a lot easier than to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room whenever you want to or whenever you have to. And that's really all I can give as far as advice. If I learned anything in all this, it's, if you need the wiggle room, you need to have the momentum before that, or else the wiggle room just becomes a lot of floundering around and not doing anything and kind of getting stuck in a rut, and then you're just going through this cycle of doing nothing over and over again until you can kind of pull yourself up out of it. But anyway, thanks again for listening. This has been episode 33 of Tim's 2 Cents. Glad to be back. Hopefully you guys are still listening. Send me all your Twitter hates and love at BakersDozen93, and I'll keep on doing these, hopefully. My discipline for podcasting is, it needs a little bit of work. I need to sharpen things up a little bit, but I'm back. Hello. I'm sorry. Have a good week, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.